All right, so we've got the first couple people rolling into stream. So for those of you who've watched my streams before, you know the drill. Just start typing stuff in chat, and I'll respond to it. And if you're new, that's kind of how we do it here. Um, I'll just have you type stuff into chat, and we'll go from there. I will respond to hopefully everything that comes in if it comes in reasonable speed. Obviously, if things are coming in too fast for me to keep up with them, I might not get to absolutely everything. But yeah, with that said, go ahead and ask away. Say chance to interact with me. Matthew Antonucci. Hey, why do you always sometimes make your streams private? That was just the last one that I did because no one watched that, and that was pretty boring. And yeah. Hey, Jared, how's it going? Jared, I'm pretty good. It's a pretty slow day, so I'm doing a stream because why not? Just been busy lately. Have a few new fire alarm stuff on the way. Nice. Um, I've heard about some of the stuff that you're working on in the Discord chats. So I think you got some good ideas in mind. So good luck with your new fire alarm stuff. I think you will enjoy it. Thanks. I appreciate it very much. You're very welcome, Jared. All right. Hey, system sensor fire alarm guy. How's it going? Welcome to the chat. You can ask me questions or just say stuff to me, and I'll respond. It's kind of like a conversation. It's a chance to interact with me. KJ7B BZC. Welcome. System sensor fire alarm guy. It's going pretty well. How's your day going? For me, it's a pretty relaxing day. I decided I'd do a live stream today. Hey, fire alarm guy 13. So I got fire alarm guy 13 here. He's my official stream moderator, but hopefully he won't have to do anything. He'll just be part of the chat. Hey, there's someone I recognize. Nice. Yo, Simplex fire alarm guy. Good to see you here. Yes, I've been out of school for about a month, Jared. Our school year ends usually sometime in May. I got out on the 28th. Oh Lord. Yes, Simplex fire alarm guy. That is a 49er tree that you see there. For those of you, I know someone's going to ask what kind of 4903 it is. Let's go ahead and show you. It's a 9219. Oh, there we go. Was just about to ask that, LMAO. I figured. Usually whenever I have, a fire alarm like this, someone will ask what model it is, and, that's cool. It's a legit question, so. I like those alarms. Simplex made some pretty cool looking devices. Yeah, I agree with that. I got most of the types of devices that Simplex made. Like for the main series, I got these 4903s. I've got True Alerts and older Simplex devices as well. So it's pretty cool. Ever get a 9221 or 9222 yet? I have not. I haven't gotten one of those yet. I was going to, but then my PayPal decided it didn't like me, so that didn't work out. But that was like 2 or 3 months ago now. So, do I have any AC mechanical horns? I do. I have two technically. I have a old Edwards Adaptahorn 120-volt model from like the probably the 60s or 70s, and I have a slightly newer Wheelock sprinkler bell, which runs on 120 volts. Found a link for a 9222. It's pricey, but I can PM you the link. Sure. Why don't you send that to me on Discord? Ah, nice. I love AC horns. Just got a Wheelock one the other day. By that, I'm assuming probably like a 31T, perhaps, or possibly a. Oh, that reminds me. I was gonna say a 120-volt Wheelock MT, and I actually do have one of those. The one of those sprinkler MTs they made. Dang, 318 subs. I got some catching up to do. LOL. Yeah, I had a decent spike in subscribers like a couple weeks ago, and people just kept subscribing for a little bit, and now haven't gotten any new subscribers in the last couple of days, but I'll get some more at some point. It just so happens to be a 31T in gray color. Nice. Am I interested in Potter at all? Their equipment is fine, but I just don't really have any of that stuff, so I'm neutral about it. I got 29. I need to change some things up. System sensor fire alarm guy, what I would suggest is upload as much as you can, and you've got to play with your video titles and your metadata in order to make it so that your content is more likely to be recommended. And to be fair, it does take some time to grow a channel. So for me, it took me 8 months to get to 50, 11 to get to 100, and then it's an exponential thing. So it's very slow at first, and then it gets bigger over time. I'm getting a PFC 4064 in the near future. Nice. I've heard good things about those panels, although I haven't worked with one, so I can't give an opinion on it. Jared Thompson, I'll advertise your channel. Thanks, man. I would definitely appreciate it if you did that. Pentium Man says, love those 9806s. Nice. I have a couple of those. Let's see, how many of those do I have? I got 3 of those 9806s, although I don't have one right here in front of me. I'm hoping to go addressable soon. Nice. KJ7 BZC, favorite alarm or manufacturer? Favorite manufacturer is Simplex. I don't know about a specific favorite alarm, though. I'd say probably like the 2903s are pretty awesome because they're not only rare, and most of them sound awesome. They look pretty cool, and for a lot of us, they're nostalgic. So getting bored of the conventional systems. System sensor fire alarm guy, I would definitely suggest getting some kind of addressable system. It's completely different from most conventional panels. Most of them are a lot more flexible, and you can do different programming things with them, and it's just an entire it's a fundamentally different system. So, but it will unlock a lot of new potential with your panels. I saw a 2903 with a 9833 on its back box in an elementary school. Nice. It was disconnected. Should I go with the Simplex 4004 as my first panel? I don't think that's a bad idea. I've heard of several people using 4004s, and they make pretty good panels, I think. But obviously, I don't own one, so I don't really know that much about them. So do your research, I would say. Especially their older stuff like the 4001, 4002. I would like to get a 4002 at some point. My school had the 4100 ES with the whoop and the evac message. Nice. There is a 4001 in a church, and it had 9101s and some sort of chime or bell. Nice. I was going to go with the MS4, but it's dumb. The MS4 honestly isn't that bad of a starter panel. I have one, and the only real thing with it is that it does put out FWR, but I think it's a half decent starter panel. It's pretty flexible for its size, and usually you can find them for not super expensive, although that seems to be changing. So, yeah. (4004) MS4, MS2 will be your best starter panels. Hello, Aaron Pechico. I never remember how to pronounce that name. It seems like I say it differently every time. So if I mispronounce it, I'm sorry. I got bored of mine real quick. Yeah. Eventually you move on. I personally really dislike the MS4 too. They are super overrated in my opinion. They are expensive and kind of boring. Yeah. I got my MS4 for about $100, like almost 4 years ago now. So yeah, it was half screwed up when I got it because I got it from a former fire alarm enthusiast who lives like a couple of blocks from me. So he gave it to me for a really good deal. Same guy I got my 4008 from, as well as this particular pull station, among other things. I ended up getting like 50 devices from him, and he jump started my liking of Simplex. It's kind of fun. Whoever did the Wheelock voice evac did not do a good job. It's only 2 knacks. Mine had the knack fault and system trouble lights on upon arrival. Yeah, those knacks on those MS2s are easy to blow. They break really quick. That is very true. The MS, for being a starter panel, the MS2 and MS4 are like the most fragile panels I know of. I wouldn't mind a 10UD. I've heard good things about the 5UD and 10UD. If I were to get another Firelight panel, it would probably be one of those, or I would go for like a 10UD or a 9050. One of those two. Something that puts out filtered DC. IDK if the transformer is messed up. I'm not sure. I kind of wish I got a 10UD instead of the 5UD. They're both pretty much the same except for, the number of zones. But obviously the 10UD gives you more zones to work with, so. I was thinking about getting an MS4 board for the SK2. You could probably find one on eBay. I don't know how much they cost. I'm looking at the Bosch 7024. They look easy. I don't know. Something you could look into. I don't really know much about those Bosch panels. How loud are the 31T 115s? They are probably quite loud. I don't have one, so I don't know. It's easy to blow up a firelight panel. I've shorted the NACs on my 4010 so many times. It still runs like a champ. I have shorted dang near every circuit on that 4008, and it runs just like your 4010 does. I remember like 2 years ago, I had the 4008 running the home system, and it like rained outside where the wires are ran for the NAC and the ID net. And strangely consistently, for about a month, once a week, the ID net loop would short out. So it would, shut down the SLC, but that was it. It'd obviously give me like 20 troubles because all the devices went missing. But wonder if the MS2/4 are capable of having voice. You could do that. I know some people do like the MP3 things. I know a way you could make the voice silenceable if you did it with an MP3, but you'd have to get an external relay. Do I have notifier panel? I have that voice panel that's technically branded by notifier, but I don't have any like just straight up notifier panels. Got an MP3 recently for my system. Simplex fire alarm guy, if you want me to tell you how you can make it silenceable, message me after the chat or after the stream, and I'll talk to you about it. Are there NAC extension cards for the MS4? You would have to buy a separate NAC extender if you needed, more NACs. But the MS4 can support NAC extenders. But you'd want to get a Firelight NAC extender. There are Class A NAC stuff for Firelight. I wouldn't do Class A for a demo system just because that's a pain in the butt and requires twice as much wire. Just my personal preference. Goody, I have the relay set up as silenceable, but it doesn't stop unless I cut the power to it. Is that a 9219 on my couch? Sure is. I have a 9221. Cool. I have been meaning to get one for a while, but I haven't gotten around to it yet because I really don't buy that much fire alarm stuff anymore. Honest opinion, should I get a FCPS booster for the 5UD? So that way I'll have filter DC and I'll be able to have more variety of alarms than just system sensor, or get a new panel in general. I've seen it's really up to you. You might be able to find like a 9050 UD or perhaps like a simplex addressable panel, something like that, something that puts out filtered DC that's also an addressable panel, because I know you were talking about that. But if you wanted to do it a little bit more cheaply, those FCPS NAC boosters tend to run for usually between $100 and $150 from what I see a lot. New Age server alarm does the worst thing to do with the MS2 pull station. I don't know what you're talking about with that, but feel free to elaborate. If you're thinking about going addressable, I say look for filtered addressable. What's the difference between the E70 and a CH70? CH70, they basically slapped a chime module on the back of an E70 pretty much. The E70 is just the speaker, and the CH70 is a chime module that is played through the exact same speaker. That's about all it is. I reset them manually as they should be reset on the MS2 pull. Can the Ms4 have an Enunciator? They make an Enunciator for the Ms4, but it's like a switch plate with some LEDs in it, basically, and you got to get a special card to put into your panel to run it. So, yes. Short answer, yes, but I don't ever really see it. He resets them by pushing the front of the pull into the switch. Some MS2s can reset like that. Others, you actually have to flip the switch down. I've tried just, resetting it on mine, but it just doesn't work. Been playing around with a sync module lately. Been playing around to see if I can get it to sync up with non-smart sync devices, and so far it's working. Like these 4903s, these strobes won't sync just because they aren't designed to. You can put them on a smart sync module. It'll just make them skip whenever, the module clicks to sync the strobes together. But they also made 4903 models like this that did have syncable strobes on them, so those strobes could be synced. Mine has a weird issue where you don't need a key, just push it in the front and it resets. I think it's time for me to start getting alarms to replicate my high school. I think you should do that. I had an MS2 and made the same mistake New Age server alarm did. I regret it. Is the 5ED good for a starter panel? Excuse me. I would say it is, but you got to be careful about getting one that you know the password to, because you can set passwords on those. That's my current setup. 4 MS2 pull stations and the spectral advances. I do want to have wheel-lock notification appliances instead. System sensor fire alarm guy. Here's my honest suggestion for you. I think you should. So you have your home system, obviously. If you want that to be used as strictly a home system, I suggest that you pick some devices to put up and leave them. So that way everyone knows what your pull stations look like and everyone knows what the fire alarm sounds like when it goes off, instead of, changing it every week. It's just my take, because I changed my home system around a lot. I used to, but I don't anymore. And now my family has slightly more respect for my home system. I need a 4005 or 4010 in order to do my high school. Jared, seeing by the enunciators at your school, I think your school actually has a 4100 ES, because your school has 4100 ES enunciators. EST Genesises are getting pricey. Is the notifier a good starter? Depends on the model of the panel. If you get a rebrand, if you get the rebranded MS2s and MS4s or 5UDs or whatever, those are fine. But notifier also makes some very large and high end panels that are definitely not good for starting. It has a 4100 Classic. Jared, it actually was possible to upgrade just the CPU and display on those older 4100 panels, so it would technically become an ES panel because it had an ES CPU in it, but keeps the rest of the cards the same. So I have a feeling that might have been what they did at your school, just because I have seen newer enunciators in your EHS videos. So yeah, that's why I'm making a board at the moment. The board will be for my new panel eventually. My MS4 is on it currently. Nice. According to looking at the pull stations, it's a MapNet system. The ES panels can support MapNet. Same thing as I was saying, you can. I do believe that your school's panel was originally a 4100 Classic, although I think it was upgraded to an ES. But what I'm saying is that you can just upgrade the CPU card and keep all the other NACs and IDNet loop cards the same, or SLCs the same, and it's backwards compatible with the ES CPU. I don't know for sure. That's just what I think they did. Is the i3 good? It's all right. I obviously have other detectors, although the i3 detectors are pretty nice. I wish I had a vintage notifier BNG1. I mean, you can find them on eBay, so if you want one, you could probably buy one. Um, Aaron, I have the next several tests already planned out for what I'm gonna do, so you're probably not gonna see System Sensor for a few more videos, but I'll put it on my list of things to do. How does that sound? Problem is that, the current, as I sit here right now, the setups that are going to be shown, 2 videos from now are up. So you'll see them at some point, but I can't promise next video. My school has a 4010 and True Alerts and T-bars. Cool. I'd need to find the EHS though. I narrowed it down to just 2 locations within the building. However, they are monitored and they are in locked closets. If I had to guess, based on the era in which EHS was built, as in, the 90s, they can usually be found in electrical closets. And I've noticed a pattern that they tend to be near cafeterias a lot of the time. Is where the panels tend to be near the cafeteria. Is the 4006 good? If it's similar to the 4008, so I would say it's probably pretty good, although I technically don't own one, so can't really give too much of an opinion. But the 4008 is a really nice panel. Four thousand six is not addressable. 4008 is. $4,005 is an older simplex conventional panel designed for larger applications, so they were quite modular. So I've seen 4005s that, have 24 zones and 8 NACs coming out of it to power a fairly good sized building. So, yeah. Hello, Northern Fire and Security. $4,005 is the direct replacement for the 4002. There's your answer. Made until 2010, at which point Simplex didn't really make that many conventional systems anymore. You could get the 4006 for smaller buildings that use conventional systems, and I believe those are still being made. Fire alarm guy 13. Alarming alarmist is not allowed to say yam. That's his warning. I'm pointing my fingers towards the cafe, actually. There is indeed an electrical room nearby. I'm willing to bet that's where the panel is. I would guess that's where it is, too. Because buildings of that era, if you were building a school, the panels were often on first floor or basement electrical rooms. And a long time ago, I found a 4004 with a Dover buzzer. Nice. I see them everywhere. Well, a lot of the smaller fire alarm companies tend to mostly install those products because they install firelight systems. So it is what it is, but yeah, they are everywhere. I heard that Simplex recently discontinued the 4008 and 4010 parts, so if one fails now, it'll have to be fully replaced. By now, they'd probably just throw in a 4007 ES, which I heard programming software for those panels is public now, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like I heard that somewhere. How many zones and NACs does a Simplex 2001 have? The 2001s were they were just like 4005s and 4100 series panels. They were very, very modular. They came in different sizes with different number of cards. So you could find a 4000. The minimum zones a 2001 could have was 1 zone and 1 NAC. And there really isn't any limit to how many zones they could have or NACs. It really just depends on the card configuration. Maybe a rumor. I'll have to look around and see if I can find the software. I think, wait. Okay, I remember what it was now. I heard it on one of the Discord servers. I think it's the AutoCall rebranded software that is technically available, and you can download the software, and it will allow you to program a 4007 series panel without, giving a username and password that you obviously can't create. Is the system sensor L series good? I mean, I only have one horn strobe from the L series line. It's fine. Can the Ms4 have backup panel? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. If you're asking if it can have batteries, then yes. I saw AutoCall release theirs, but I don't know if it's compatible with the Simplex versions. I mean, they're really the same panel, so I don't know why it wouldn't be compatible. but who knows? My L series was giving me problems. Classic. Who knows of Uphote? I've heard of them. I obviously don't own any of their products. They just make those weird foreign BG12s. My other fingers are pointing to where an electrical room was in a nearby stairwell. It's with the area I filmed the 9252s. I have a feeling the panel might be hiding in there. It's possible. The only way to really know would be if you could possibly walk by one of them and hear beeping, as in like the pulsed beeping that you hear from a simplex panel displaying a fire alarm before it's acknowledged, you know? If I open the door, the horn would sound for a second. Huh. That is weird. And yes, MS10UD puts out filtered DC. System sensor has wireless alarms, pulls, and smokes. I've read about those, although I don't plan on messing with those. Is the Kida FX5R good? I was looking at that panel. I personally wouldn't recommend those. I don't like those fire shield panels. They are FWR and they are difficult to program. So you could get one, it would work, but I wouldn't recommend it. Fire Alarm Guy 13 told me to check my DMs, so I'm going to see if he said anything to me. Fire Alarm Guy 13, if he says anything stupid, yes. That's my response to your DM. Okay. Is the Wheelock NS good for a horn strobe? I personally like them. EST Fart Shield. Is the RSG T-bar good? Um, I would say most of them are fine, but there's a lot of different versions of it. Stay away from the addressable ones and make sure you can buy one that you can get a key for. Yes, that's what an RSS is. Amazon have system sensor for $65. I wouldn't buy any of that. I miss the old 7002T days. I wasn't around for when the 7002T was being manufactured. Only sucky part about them is that the handles aren't spring loaded. I mean, that really isn't that big of a deal. It's just they're different from the simplex pull stations. Different feel. My school had them, but in 2015 they changed them to MTs. I'm surprised they were putting in MTs in 2015. By then, most schools were had shifted to strictly doing voice. So the 2021 to 2022 school year is the last year I'm at EHS. I'm going to try documenting as much as I can before I leave for good. I hate to leave EHS though. Really hoping to save the system. Jared, are they like planning to replace the system at any point, or do you know of anything about that, or like do an upgrade at some point? I don't know if you would know about that or not, but maybe you do. My pre-K had 7,002 Ts. I remember my preschool. I've mentioned this before. Right? It's kind of a mystery system, but the horn strobes were third gen SHGs that sound like Commander threes and had the textured strobes on them. They were supposedly installed in 1995, but those were really only made at like 1998, so I don't know. How come on some simplex true alerts on code 3 they have a long first beep on every other sequence? I don't know. It's probably just how the sync protocol works. It's something the newer true alerts do if you have them running on code 3, like the ones on my system, the white ones. I've put them on code 3 and they do that. And I think it's just has to do with how they receive the sync signal. That's right. The older ones don't do it. I just mentioned that. I've put my home system on code 3 like 2 or 3 times in the time it's been installed, and the one in the stairway doesn't do it because it's an older one. The replacement will be a speaker strobe system. That's all I heard. That is Jared. All new schools. That's a code thing. They are required to have voice now, which is kind of dumb if you ask me. Most schools, like especially like smaller schools, don't need it. But I don't write the codes. At Staples, I saw a classic Spectre alert hanging by the wires. Nice. Hello, safety, security, and fire alarms. TBH, I don't really like voice evac. I mean, it's all right. It's kind of a cool concept, but I find it impractical for a lot of collectors to use it. I mean, I have the voice panel, but it's like half broken. The main reason I like those panels is that if your panel is not broken and you do have the microphone, you can like say dumb stuff or play music over your speakers, but you can do that with a computer. So I think for schools, it should be half voice, half HS. That's how my high school is set up. The uh, the cafeteria, the gyms, the pool, and the auditorium have voice, but the rest of the school is horn strobes. I want to get a 4003 or 4003 EC at some point. The 4003 is really nice from what I've seen. Never used a 4003 EC. I'm assuming the new EHS system will likely be a true alert ES voice system due to how large the school is. If they stay with Simplex, that's realistically what they're going to get because that's what Simplex makes for voice. If it's another brand, it could potentially be Siemens, EST, Notifier does voice a lot. Maybe a Silent Night, things like that. Those are the only brands that make panels that are big enough to handle, a large high school building. So I am sick of seeing the BG12s. I am hoping to find something interesting soon. Might. Sometimes you find different things. Do you know what FWR stands for? It stands for full wave rectified. And it's like a hybrid between direct current DC and alternating current AC. It's like part of an AC sine wave in a DC signal. So like so an AC sine wave, it's 120 volts, right? But it's a wave that goes from positive 172 volts, give or take, 0, and then negative 172 volts. And that's kind of how you get phases in there. But, the midpoint is 120, and that's why I call it 120. But, 0 is your midline. In a 24 volt FWR system, you might have, a 2-volt difference in your sine wave and get, 2 volts AC, but your baseline, the middle of the wave is, 24 volts. So hang on one second. I got to plug in my laptop that's running this stream because it's at 5% battery. And I don't want it to die. All right. Is Silent Night 5808 good? It's an addressable system, so I wouldn't recommend trying to start with an addressable panel. They're contracted, so it'll likely be replaced with the ES system. I think it's very possible that they just straight up keep the old panel case and just, take out all the guts and put in a fresh new ES system. They might even take the same CPU and just reprogram it. And then they'd obviously replace all the peripheral devices. And that's how they do that. I have a Wheelock NS that has a broken strobe, and I don't know why. Sometimes these things just break. It happens. Why does a duct detector have monitor module in store? I don't know. I was thinking the same thing. I like the look of the 270 SPO. It's a unique look for sure. That's what they're probably going to be doing. The only question is when. So Jared, the thing you want to look for, you'll know when an upgrade is happening, because what you'll start seeing is obviously the white vans contractors showing up. You'll start finding a bunch of missing ceiling tiles and various wire runs, and other parts of ceiling tiles might have holes cut in them, from new devices. You'll see back boxes being installed. And before long, you'll start seeing new devices going in, because usually what happens is that they fully install the new system while the old one is still, protecting the building. And then once the new system is finished and programmed and it's working, that's when they'll shut down the old system and uninstall it. So just keep your eyes open for any signs of, a system upgrade happening. I just get my NS. Cool. I like the sound of the Genesis. Nice. Can you power a 31T 115 with DC power? No. AC horns rely on the alternating property of the electricity to actually cause the horn to vibrate. It's literally just, an electromagnetic coil that resonates a diaphragm. That's all an AC horn is. The DC horns have an oscillator circuit to mimic AC, so that's how that works. We'll try to save it. May also email district to ask when the system will be replaced. I would definitely recommend emailing your school district about that so that they can be made aware of your potential interest in watching it happen. But it's not very likely that you'll be able to save that much of the system. You might be able to get a few things from it, but you probably won't get that much from it. But I would definitely recommend talking to your school district about it when the system actually does start being replaced. I'd recommend trying to talk to some of the contractors working on it. So I see MS4. What are you asking about, Aaron? I don't know why you're just like, why? Please elaborate. I might go to a water plant and system and test all of their alarms. Nice. If you get the opportunity to do that, I definitely recommend you go and do that. My school is getting knocked down. Do you think I could go and get the 4010 from it? It depends. If they're preparing to, demolish the school, then you could possibly go, talk to the people who are working on demolishing the building. But I would say, yes, go and try and get it. But if, the building's actively being torn down, that might not be a good idea to go in there and get it. I love the System Sensor SS24. I have one of those, actually. It is the best panel that's good to get to a home system that isn't too pricey. I don't know. You could go for a 5UD or an EST Fire Shield or maybe a 4006. Panels these days, they just aren't cheap. It's the way it is. In a store. I met an alarm technician at my school. It was a neat experience. Got to test wire flow valves and a smoke detector with solo smoke. That's how I learned that SIGA SPS detectors aren't super sensitive. It's a cool story, actually. Looking at a 10UD, since I tend to replace things every 30 years. Usually, a fire alarm system could be installed anywhere between. Most of them have a service life of between 15 and 40 years, is what I usually see. So, I'd say the average is most systems last about 25 years. I could tell so much about the system at that school and how badly it was maintained, but that's a story for another time. Nice. I kind of want a 4904 strobe. I have some 4904 strobes for sale that's like, they're like these, but that's just the strobes, obviously. Where can I buy it? You can buy it on eBay. If you type in Simplex 4904, you'll probably see it. It's a model 4904 9135, and they're on sale for $15.99, I think. Basically, school district never permitted alarm techs to go in there. The Enunciator still Non-functional this day. 5 years after it was powered down, I swear there's a lot of code violations. Huh. I've never seen a 425120. What is the model of a True Alert that is free run in Smart Sync? Three off the top of my head are 4903 9425, 4903 9426, and 4903 9127. Only difference between them is the Candela rating. I see MS4 in a store. Cool. There's also 9431, 9432, and 9433. Those are white models of the free run Smart Sync, although I couldn't remember what they were off the top of my head, so I wasn't going to say them. If I do save EHS, I might be able to give you a device if you want anything. Sounds like a nice offer. I'll take you up on that if that comes to happen. Wouldn't mind getting myself a piece of history there. I'd probably grab a horn like this. On the last day of school, we got to draw on the walls, and it got out of hand, and we drew on the MTs, and the teacher got mad at us. Yeah, don't draw on fire alarms. Not a good idea. I still need a pull station for NS. You could probably just buy one on eBay that you like. But make sure you get a key for it, because those are important. Is there a 4903 9296? I don't know. Don't remember if I've asked before, but whenever I found a bunch of 405080s, would I want to trade one for a 9005? That might actually be a possibility that we could look into. Does anybody know of a 4903 that's a low frequency sounder? I had them in elementary school, but there's no voice evac panel for anything. So I'm not sure where that tone came from. It is. Here's what I think happened. I think they were speaker strobes. I think your school had voice, but it didn't play a message. It's possible that could have been ran off of 4003 that you just never saw. Because those 4003s do have that low tone. I wish Simplex made alert 4903s. 4903s were made before the time where mass notification systems were prevalent enough for, fire alarm manufacturers to be making that kind of stuff. So they obviously don't exist. Do they make alert? They do make alert 2904s. I haven't seen that. Simplex fire alarm guy, if you have a picture of that, I'd like to see that. Quite an odd setup in that case. There's only 3 of them in the building that made that low tone. I don't. Interesting. How rare is the Gamewell M69? I think that's one of those gray pull stations, in which case those are pretty rare. Heard about it on the FATAC. It could have been a glitch in the panel. I don't know. Is Mercom a good company? I don't really know. '4903s are still made, however, they're made for replacements for older '4903s. That is true. I have seen, I think they're still making the free run true alerts, as well as I think the only ones they're still making are the 9252s, 9253s, and 9254s. Because those can be, selectable free run smart sync, and they take on the 4904 shape. Same goes with 4904. I know they're still making those. 9252s and 9150s still exist. Okay. I don't know what all Simplex is still making. I'd have to look at their website and see if I can go shopping. I wish they still made the 9838s. By now, for commercial application, for fire alarm application, those electromechanical horns are completely obsolete. No one makes them for fire alarm anymore. What alarms do I recommend? It's really a matter of personal opinion. There's too many of them for me to list that would be good for you to buy. What I'd recommend is you go watch New Age Server Alarm's Fire Alarm Buyer's Guide video. It provides a lot of really good information, although that video is kind of outdated, so perhaps an update is needed for that. But I would recommend watching that to just get a general idea. Is the FOS a 9838? I guess a lot. It's technically the same horn, but they're a different model number. Can a panel have 150 or 500 monitor modules? It depends on the panel. Different panels have different limits to how many devices you can put on an SLC. The most I've ever seen a panel be able to support, usually panels can support 50, 100, 127, 200, 250, or 500 is usually a number of devices you can have on a given SLC loop. Those are the common numbers, but it depends on the panel. Simplex Fire Alarm Guy, I would help you with that video if you would want me to. But what I was thinking is just like a more general thing. So maybe we could work on something like that at some point. What is walk test? That is a good question. It's a form of testing where it's a mode you can put the panel in, and it basically just when you activate a device, it sounds your horn strobes for just a few seconds at a time so that you can get an audible and visual cue that your device works, but you don't have to walk back to the panel every time. Where can you get alarm wire from? I see it a lot on eBay. I actually see fire alarm wire a lot on Facebook Marketplace. Can MS4 have monitor module? Nope. MS4 is conventional panel. They don't use monitor modules. What if you build a gaming PC in an MS4 box? I guess I don't think that would work very well. You'd have to heavily modify that case to make it work as a computer case. I don't think it's big enough. The MS4s are really small for panels. Why do monitor modules have red or green LED? It depends on the addressable protocol that the given system uses. Some of them dictate green, others dictate red when they're pulling. If you watch Safe Tech, you'll know what I mean. Yeah, walk test is just a way to go around, test all the initiating devices without having to reset the panel every time. 4010 is addressable, correct? IMO simplex is the best form of walk test. The thing I like about simplex walk test is the fact that when you activate a device, the horns tap out the device address, which I think is pretty cool. It helps me remember how I addressed my devices. So basically, if I ever need to go and figure out which device is which, I can just put it in walk test and figure out what the horns tell me. What kind of batteries should I use for an NS? My answer is anything that provides 24 volts DC, give or take a few volts. What's the difference between addressable and conventional? It has to do with the formal answer for the difference between addressable and conventional is how the panel or how devices register an alarm. In a conventional system, the devices tell the panel when there's an alarm condition based off of statuses. In an addressable system, each device sends data back to the panel through the SLC loop, and it sends different values basically. And the panel checks each device on the loop and registers the data that it sends, and it processes that data and knows when it sees certain points of data that represents an alarm, a trouble, supervisory, whatever, and that's how it processes alarms. Are alarm addressable like simplex? Simplex addressable protocol is unique to simplex. Is a loop somewhat like a zone? Not really. There isn't really anything you can compare an SLC loop. You could compare it to a zone, but each device is programmed to send data. It's almost like a computer network. Do notification appliances have to be addressable on an addressable panel? No, that for the most part they just have to be compatible with the panel, which usually certain brands of notification appliances are compatible with certain brands of panels. It's all about compatibility. But like I could put this horn strobe on a simplex addressable panel if it was properly programmed, if the NAC was programmed. The only panels I know how to wire up are the MS2, MS4, and MS2. Really, once you know how to wire an MS4 and MS2, wiring panels isn't that hard. It's more making sure you program it properly and making sure all your wires go the right places. Why the LED go on and on? You'd have to elaborate a little bit more on that. If you're talking about like the LEDs on addressable detectors, they usually blink every time the panel communicates with that specific device. All right, well, there's your answer. It's most of the time those LEDs on addressable devices blink every time the panel communicates with that device. How do you power the 4004? With 120 volts AC that is fed through a transformer, I think. I don't know. I don't know how you apply power to a 4004. I'm not the keeper of all knowledge of simplex devices. There's plenty of documentation on the internet that should show you. Chirp. Yep, that's that detector that's buried under junk somewhere, and I can't find it. What? Why do fire alarm like EST3 have a red phone? Oh, those are firefighters' phones that can be used to. So you might, if you had a fire in a large building like that, um, in those types of buildings, you'll see little red plates with phone jacks in them, usually near like elevators, and they can be used to communicate throughout the building for firefighters to be able to communicate with each other. So you'd have someone stationed at the fire alarm panel at the firefighter's telephone, and you can take telephone sets and plug them into these jacks and communicate back to the panel, basically. What is EST3? High-end EST fire alarm panel, usually used in large buildings. My school has EST3. EST3s are fairly commonly used in schools. What alarms have the chime feature in it? It's usually multi-tone. Horns usually have a chime tone. But I don't know all the models of fire alarms that have a chime tone off the top of my head. Can fire alarm panels be controlled wirelessly? For the most part, no. Like Gentex EST2, what? Please elaborate. I take it you're saying EST3 with Gentex devices or Gentex horn strobes, maybe? I don't know. Hmm. Yes, there are many different alarms have the chime tone. There's a Genesis series chime strobe. If you can think of a line of fire alarm notification appliances, most of them have a chime strobe device in them or a device that is capable of generating a chime tone. I hate the integrity sound. I don't mind it. I honestly kind of like it. Although I could see where people would hate the sound of an integrity. Gentex and EST have chime. Yes, they do. Um, I don't like call points. I have one that's 6 wire. Huh. Call points aren't used in the U.S. or in North America, really, for that matter. Call points are used mainly in Europe and Asia, so we don't use them here. There's a weather radio that sounds like a fire alarm. Huh. I like the Silent Night BG8s. Cool. I do not own one of those, but those are addressable SD protocol devices, which I don't use. I use the Honeywell protocol on my Silent Night panel. So why do T-bar have glass? I don't know why some applications use break glass pull stations, but it's an option that you have. Um, but it was just an option on various pull stations. to have fun while setting off the alarm. That probably was not it. But I think the reason a lot of break glass stations existed was to provide physical evidence that an alarm had been pulled. So, all right, see you later, Fire Alarm Guy 13. What are coded pull stations? They are an older pull station technology where when you would pull the handle, it would wind up a gear system that would turn a little wheel that would tap out a code that was associated with that pull station and usually matched a location in the building. And those would either be tapped out over horns or in a panel that first responders could look at, or they could hear the horns and they'd know where the alarm had been activated from. It's kind of like a primitive form of addressable systems. I like the Honeywell SE806E1013. Not quite sure what that is. I think that's like a horn strobe or something, but I don't know for sure what that is. Who made Enunciator? Most brands have an Enunciator that matches with a given panel. Which do I prefer, 29390, 9005, or 9006? Either one is cool. They're both pretty much the same thing, except obviously one is a rear mount and one is a front mount, surface mount. If I had to pick one, I would probably pick the 9005 because it's the more traditional 2903. I actually have a 9002, but it needs I need to get a bulb and sockets put in there. Can the AN80 wire to the MS4? No, it cannot. Those are not compatible enunciators and panels. Enunciators are not addressable. They wire to an enunciator bus, which you have to get an enunciator that matches your panel. I prefer 9006 since you can put more on it. That is true. All right, well, it is 2 o'clock, and I've been streaming for an hour and a half, so I think I'm going to end the stream here. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to check out the links in my description. Thank you, and have a great day.